What's the single biggest reason that you're very talented, but you're not getting the clients coming in? You are listening to Amplify Your Success podcast, episode 400. And today, as we celebrate this big milestone, I'm going to reveal a powerful strategy to stand out in a sea of same-sounding competitors. You ready for this? Let's get started. Welcome to the Amplify Your Success podcast. Get ready to ramp up your revenue, amplify your impact, and make your mark in the world. This is the show for experts, thought leaders, and service professionals who want to shatter their limits and achieve that next level. You're going to find out from other experts and influencers how they made it. Now, let's get amplified. Hey, it's Melanie Benson. I am host of Amplify Your Success podcast, and this is the last of my special summer series on messaging, monetization, and your mindset. And if you missed any of the previous ones, you're going to make sure to go back and listen. Most of them are pretty short, but I wanted to solve some of the biggest challenges that really talented experts, coaches, thought leaders, service-based business owners are experiencing that's eroding their cash flow and keeping them from having that greater impact in the world that I know this is why you're here. And today we're going to talk about the last one. And this is where I have personally had the hugest breakthroughs in my business over the years. And I couldn't have had the impact that I have and the positioning that I have and experience such a beautiful gift of so many amazing opportunities just flowing into my business if I hadn't solved this one thing. And that's messaging, but not just any kind of messaging. And this is where things get kind of tricky. So today on the show, I am going to cover the most important pieces of magnetic messaging and how this is going to set you apart from people who sound like you. And let me start by just saying that the single biggest reason why people come to work with me and they join my 100K3 accelerator program is because they're kind of beating their head against the wall, can't figure out why they have such great results with the clients they already have, but they're having a hard time attracting new clients in. And their best clients have always come from referrals or when they have a conversation with somebody, but it's not coming from like their outbound marketing efforts, like being on a podcast or speaking in front of an audience or putting out social media. And it's like, why does that keep getting crickets? Why am I putting so much efforting out and it's not coming back? And there's some nuances to creating a magnetic message that will help you stand out. So I want you to imagine for a minute, your marketplace. And if you were to go on LinkedIn or Facebook, or even just search on Google, how many people sound a lot like you when they just read the marketing? And second question, in a sea of sameness, does your potential client get why they need to choose you when they read your message? This is why most people who are really passion driven, they've got a lot of desire to make an impact, they put heart and soul into everything they do, and they probably have great training in their processes and what they can deliver. But when that sea of sameness is occurring, and by the way, that's what's happening to your ideal clients, you're not the lighthouse that stands out, shining bright. You're invisible and you're like a best kept secret. Okay, so what you want is to be that lighthouse that guides people to your shore safely and enticingly, and you want them to want to seek you out. So the way to do that is you need to understand what sets people apart in messaging. Now, I have a little formula that I've been teaching for a really long time. I teach it in the 100K3 Accelerator. That's my 12-week program where we literally go through all of the important elements to not just be visible, not just attract clients, but to actually have your marketplace start coming to you as the go-to leader or recognized authority, right? It's like it makes all the marketing so much easier when you're flipping that chasing energy away and you're now like you're the beacon of who people come to because they get what you do. And there's some very important elements in the ROCKS method. So I'll just say what it is. We don't have the bandwidth to unpack it all here, but basically it's relevance, outcome driven, credibility boosting, and specificity. Now, these are energies that I use when I'm helping somebody build a message. Now, here's what I see happening all the time. You think you're being clear. You probably think you're being clever. You think you're probably creating a message that your audience needs to hear. This is first big aha. You cannot create messages that you think they need to hear, because chances are you're very attached to your audience hearing things in a certain way. You need to create messaging that they deeply, and like this energy just comes in them and they're like, that is exactly what I need. And that's because it's something they want. They've gotten to the point where there is a problem or a desire in their life and they're craving it, even if they've never said it out loud. And your messaging has to speak to them in their language, in their paradigm, with the way they think about it. And this is where most messaging breaks down, is you're very attached to how your messaging shows up, and it's not translating as resonant to your ideal client. Trust me, I've done this all wrong many, many times. And when I really learned how to speak my ideal client's language, and I could speak to what they crave and what they desire, things went very differently than they did in the past. Okay. So it's one piece of the puzzle. There are other pieces. We have to be able to monetize our message. We have to be able to deliver something valuable, right? And so in order to get to a message, you have to know what sets you apart from everybody else, what your ideal client craves, and you need to know what your unique value proposition is. Okay, so what is your value to the person who has the problem or wants the solution or is going for this goal, right? Whatever the outcome is you help people achieve. What is the unique value that they get in working with you over all the other people who are out there who they could choose? Now, let me tell you an interesting competitive advantage. You may think, I don't know, Melanie, what is going to set me apart from everybody else? You always have very important ingredients, factors that make you bookable and desirable and compelling to the right client. So the next piece of the puzzle is you need to know who is that ideal client. And trust me, it's not everyone. And if you've gotten past that and you're like, okay, I get it. It's not everyone. It's not even everyone who is an entrepreneur or everyone who is a mom or everyone who is a working professional, right? Like you have to dig deeper, because what's going to stand apart from all the other messaging is you're not generic. Okay. Generic messaging is vanilla. It sounds like everything else. When you lean in and really dial in the unique energy of you and the outcomes that you create and your brand energy and your personality, and you infuse that into your messaging, the right people see that light coming from the lighthouse, and that's like a beacon that just pulls them into you. So a couple of things that I see happen is, one, people think, I don't want to lose clients, so I want to appeal to more people. Well, I get that. That's a human nature. We don't want to focus on what we might lose. You want to focus on what you're going to gain by attracting more of your ideal clients. And if you're trying to appeal to everyone, trust me, your ideal clients are never going to hear you in the mix. Again, you just blend in. I had a client one time who came to me because he was so talented. He had the best training. He'd studied with some of the masters, really big name people you would probably recommend, or sorry, you would recognize, that's the right word. And he literally was just like, I feel invisible. Now, obviously, some of this ties into the mindset, which we covered a couple episodes back, but this was also a messaging problem. And when I asked him, okay, so what is the message you're putting out there? And he said, well, how to be a high performer in your field. I was like, So this is me like crossing my hands, like big red X. Nope, that is not what people want. People want to achieve an outcome in a faster way. The only time they know they want someone to help them reach high performance is if they've already been sold on the solution and now they're just looking for the right person to do it. It's like if you know you want an accountant, you're just looking for the right accountant for you. But if you don't know you need an accountant yet, you need to understand what the problem is and what the solution is and why that accountant is the right person to help them achieve it. And if somebody's looking at a bunch of different accountants, you need your message to help you cut away the competition so that you become the most logical choice. Okay, so we don't want to be generic. Okay, so generic is when you sound like everybody else, you're blending in. And that means people won't see you. There's a couple ways that you can use too generic of messaging, not just using general words, but also overused buzzwords. If you've got vague promises rather than specific promises, and your personality or your brand energy isn't infused into your messaging. One of the gals that's been in 100K through Accelerators last time, we've been working on what sets her apart from other people that do some similar things. And, even though she knows there's not a lot of people that does what she does, the world doesn't know that. And so we worked on really pulling through a little bit of her snarky, edgy language in her topics and in her marketing in general. And it worked like gangbusters. She went from feeling like nobody was responding to her social media posts and, like, okay, people were booking her, but her episodes weren't converting, to getting high conversions on her episodes where she was airing on other people's shows and getting more people clicking and saying, hey, yes, this is totally me, because she had energy that was so, it like really stood apart from everybody else as a similar message. Okay, so define your unique value. What's going to make you unique, and infuse that into the outcomes. Okay, so when you have a value proposition, you know very clearly what is the value of the work I do to my ideal client, and you infuse that into your messaging. If you don't know that, you absolutely need to reach out to me, because solving this is going to change everything. This is a game changer, not just for you, but for your client base. And not only does it set you apart from everyone else, not only is it going to boost your confidence, not only is it going to make you the go-to authority, this actually helps you raise your prices to be able to offer premium packages and get them. And your ideal clients are not even going to question it. Okay, so what is your unique value proposition, and let that infuse into your messaging, and then the client language. Okay, so when you understand who your ideal client is, we can start to understand what is the way that they experience the problem, they experience the goal, the desire for something unique and different. You can start to, we can start to help you recognize their language patterns and match them in your messaging. The problem is, for a lot of people, is you may have the most compelling offer and a really great program, or you're like getting amazing results with your clients. But if you're using language that your best clients don't respond to, it's still going to make you invisible. I was working with somebody who does a lot of, she does like energy clearing work, and she works a lot on like, more like on a soul level with energy. And she was using language that only someone would know if they were like living in that paradigm. But she wanted to start attracting people who were in other fields and maybe not so used to this. And so we had to recondition her language patterns to match the person who didn't have all of this awareness. So we have to drop like industry buzzwords and things that made sense to her because she knows what her work's about, but wouldn't make sense to anybody else, and use common language with a little bit of her unique energy patterns around it. And to really think about, what is the emotional trigger that your ideal client needs? What is the way you can language something so they feel you when they read your message? They feel the urgency, they feel the excitement. They feel the, oh my God, this is costing me way too much to keep this, and I want to do something about it. So emotional triggers. Okay, so for instance, if you are struggling with your message and you have not been able to attract clients, chances are that you are so frustrated and so disillusioned and so in confusion that you may even be wondering if you should be doing this work or if what you do is valuable. And that cost is probably costing you tens of thousands of dollars a month in potential clients that are not closing, they're not enrolling, they're not seeking you out because they don't get what you do. Okay, so that was a little bit of emotional trigger. Now, here's something that I think can be super powerful to set you apart, and that is the power of your stories. Okay, so when I work with people in the 12-week program, we do a whole session on stories. Now, this is not tell your life story or tell how you began in your work. This is very poignant stories that build a rapport and connection and trust and relevance with your listeners, with the people that could potentially say yes to working with you. There are 7 different types of stories that you need to tell at different times. And if you tell the wrong story at a time where you need to be telling a more poignant story, the story doesn't connect and it falls flat. So you need to really learn how to tell stories about your brand, about your results, about your unique value proposition. So it's really clear that you know what you're doing. So I had a really big name expert on my podcast many years ago, and he spent 25 minutes telling a story that lost me, lost the listeners. There was no real value proposition. It's just he got lost in telling a story that he really believed had value. What happens when you get lost in stories is you don't know how to make a point. So a powerful story has a connection, a hook, an energy at the beginning that pulls somebody in and then weaves in a teaching element, whether it's like not what to do or why something worked, and then a why they want to take action. And you can tell a lot of different stories about your brand. One of the stories I told for many years was how I discovered that I didn't know how to make money in the first couple years of my business. And I literally was sitting in front of my computer, looking at my bank account, looking at what was coming in and thinking, I don't know, like, is this going to work? Like, can I do this? And there was a little shift in my brain that day where I'm like, I don't know how to monetize this training that I got. And I need to learn how to monetize. And that took me on a journey of studying with some of the best messengers and mindset teachers and learning how to monetize like the people who are always making multiple 6 and 7 figures. I invested thousands of dollars. And I eventually shifted out of being a productivity and like get your goal kind of coach and into visibility because it became second nature for me to recognize how to not just be visible with a powerful message that got people running to the back of the room, but literally I could touch somebody's soul and light them up and give them a desire for a possibility that they never even believed was possible. And that's what I do when I take people through my programs. So that would be an example of a brand story. Okay. So the last thing in messaging is to build what I call an arc. You need to build a thread between their world and your world. Okay. And so if you can meet somebody in their world and really know what it is that they deeply desire, what they're craving, what they must become aware of, so they stop being stuck in a place they don't want to be and can go to the part of the journey that you know is more successful, more aligned, more powerful, more exciting for them. And that world passes through your solutions. I call it building a golden thread. You got to meet them in their part of the world, understand what they're looking for, what needs to what they need to hear in order to wake up and say, wow, okay, Joan has got this, or Linda's really like got something I need to pay attention to. You're building a bridge between what they're struggling with and what they desire and what you can offer as a solution so that you can help guide them to the outcomes they want. And the things I just covered are what helps build that bridge. But ultimately, your authenticity, your ability to share social proof, and your consistency across all of your platforms, where somebody can go and say, oh, Melanie is consistent with her message, with her teachings, with her offerings. There's constantly proof that she is showing up and matching her marketing. Cool. I want more. So if you're not willing to let one more day go by to struggle with being relevant and seen by your ideal clients and your colleagues who are booking speakers and guest experts on their shows, and you know you need to go from being the invisible expert who's a best kept secret to the people who actually need and would hire them in an instant, to being in demand, the go-to, with consistent 5 and 6 figure months, then you want to reach out to me today. Let's have a chat, no obligation. Okay, I'll link it up in the show notes wherever you're listening to this, or you could head to my page, melaniebenson.com/coaching. You can read a little bit about the upcoming 100K 30 Accelerator, and let's uncover what your most accelerated path is to standing out with the right message that your ideal clients can't resist. All right, thanks for tuning in for this series. I can't wait to hear your takeaways and your ahas. Let's make the last part of this year the most profitable and impactful part of your year. Thanks for tuning in today, Amplifier. Be sure to join us right now in the Amplify Your Authority community at authorityamplifiers.com, and I'll share my 7 proven tips to be a highly paid expert that stands out in a crowded market. Plus, we're going to keep this conversation going, and I want to hear from you how you're going to amplify your authority and make a greater impact. Before you go, please take a minute to give our show and our guests some love over on your favorite podcasting platform. Subscribe, rate, and review. Leave your full name, and I'll spotlight you and your authority on social media.